The moment the process server placed that envelope in Claire's hands, I watched her face change in real time. Confusion first, then recognition, then something she clearly hadn't planned for, the ground shifting under her feet. Around her, 40 of her colleagues stood frozen, champagne glasses suspended midair. Her boss, the man she'd been spending her evenings with for 8 months, took a single, quiet step backward. And I just stood there, in the atrium I had once designed myself, exactly where I planned to be. But to understand how we got to that moment, you need to go back to where the ending started. My name is Marcus. I'm 44 years old, an architect based out of Atlanta. I've spent most of my career designing the kind of buildings people stop to photograph. Glass facades, open floor plans, spaces engineered to feel alive. Precision isn't something I learned. It's just how I'm wired. I notice details the way other people notice weather. Claire used to say it was one of the things she loved about me. We had been married 11 years. We met through mutual friends at a rooftop bar downtown, back when she was just cutting her teeth in marketing and I was still grinding for recognition at a mid-sized firm. We were both hungry then, ambitious in different directions, but aiming at the same horizon. We bought a house in Decatur 4 years in, renovated the kitchen ourselves over 2 miserable weekends, argued over tile grout colors at 10 o'clock at night, and somewhere between the second coat of paint and the moment we finally sat down on the floor, eating takeout in a half-finished room, I think we became something real. That's what I believed anyway. Claire was a marketing director at Meridian Solutions, high-end event consulting, the kind of firm that organizes corporate galas and product launches for companies with budgets I'll never touch in residential architecture. She was sharp, organized, impossible to read when she didn't want to be read. She had that rare ability to walk into a room and immediately understand the temperature of it, to make people feel seen without giving anything away herself. I should have paid more attention to that particular skill. The first sign came in February, small enough to brush off. Claire had started working later, not just dedicated late, which I was used to, but genuinely late. Texts around 7. Running behind, don't wait up. Home close to 10, too tired to talk. Bag dropped near the door, straight to the bathroom. I told myself it was the seasonal push. Their spring gala season started early. That made sense. But then it was March, then April, and the late nights didn't level off. They compounded. I remember one dinner specifically. She actually made it home before 8, rare enough that I noted it. We were eating at the kitchen table, a meal I'd thrown together, nothing special. Her phone sat face down next to her plate, the way it always did now. It buzzed. She reached for it, read something, and smiled. Not a polished, professional smile. Something warmer, something reflexive. The kind of smile a person can't entirely control. "Good news?" I asked. She looked up and the smile corrected itself immediately like a shutter closing. "Just a client," she said. Problem resolved. I nodded and went back to eating. But I held on to that fraction of a second, the way the smile had existed before she remembered I was sitting there. Then about a month later, the gym bag. Claire had been talking about getting back into a routine for years. So when she started leaving 2 evenings a week with a bag slung over her shoulder, I genuinely didn't give it much thought. It was only when I moved the bag one afternoon to reach something in the closet, it toppled over and fell open, that I noticed. No gym shoes, no athletic wear, a change of blouse, a small toiletry kit, and a pair of earrings she'd told me she lost 6 months ago. I set the bag back exactly as it was. I didn't say a word. And then there was the perfume. I'm not particularly scent-sensitive, but architects spend their lives in the details. And one Thursday evening when Claire came home, something was different. Not different from her usual perfume. Different from her. Underneath the familiar notes she'd worn for years, there was something faint and foreign. Something that didn't live in our house. I noticed it the way you notice a room that's been slightly rearranged. Everything looks right, but something is wrong. 3 flags. I kept them to myself and added them to a mental ledger I'd been pretending not to keep. But what I discovered next made everything worse. Much worse. It was a Saturday in early May. My laptop was grinding through a system update, the kind that locks you out for an hour and refuses to apologize for it. Claire was at the dining room table and asked if she could use mine to check something quickly. I said yes without thinking. I was in the kitchen. She was done in about 10 minutes, called out thanks, and went upstairs. I sat down at the laptop shortly after. Went to pull up a project file. The browser was still open. It wasn't her email tab that caught my eye first. It was the travel website. A hotel in Savannah. Confirmation page. 2 guests. 3 nights. Dated March. I sat very still. March. The weekend she had told me she was attending a brand strategy conference in Charlotte. I remembered it clearly because I had offered to drive her to the airport and she had said no. She'd arranged a car. It was easier. I shouldn't bother. I clicked back through the browser tabs. She hadn't cleared them. I'll never know if she forgot or simply assumed I wouldn't look. But there it was. The hotel confirmation, a dinner reservation for 2 at a waterfront restaurant in Savannah, and one more tab that I almost missed. Her email. Open. Sitting on the drafts folder. Draft mode. No sent trail. The oldest trick available? Write the message. Save it. Let the other person log into the same account and read it. Nothing transmitted. Nothing recorded. I read 3 of them. I closed the browser. Walked to the kitchen. Made coffee. Poured it. Stood at the counter and drank it slowly, both hands completely steady, which surprised me because I had always assumed that if this moment ever came, I would feel it like a collision. Some seismic event in my chest. There was nothing like that. Just a slow, even cooling. Like a room losing heat. By the time the cup was half empty, I had made my decision. I was not going to say one word. Not yet. Not until I knew everything. The man she was with was named Ryan Calloway, her direct supervisor at Meridian. I'd put that together within 48 hours, just from context. A name she'd mentioned professionally over the past year, always in the right tones, never in a way that flagged anything on its own. The context I now had changed the meaning of every sentence he'd appeared in. Ryan Calloway, 51, married, 2 kids, a house in Buckhead. I'll say this once. Finding out he had a family at home didn't make me feel better. It made me feel worse. Not for myself, but for his wife. I spent the next 3 weeks doing 3 things simultaneously. First, I called an attorney. Not a general practice firm. A matrimonial law specialist. I sat across from him for 90 minutes on a Tuesday. Told my office I had a site visit, and walked out with a clear picture of where I stood legally, what I was entitled to, and exactly what documentation I needed. I went back twice more over the following 2 weeks. Second, I quietly transferred half of our joint savings into a separate account. My attorney's advice. Fully legal, fully documented, protective, not reactive, calculated. Third, I continued being exactly who I had always been at home. That was the hardest part. Every dinner, every quiet evening, every casual exchange, I showed up for it. I asked about her day. I made Sunday breakfast. I suggested a movie and sat next to her on the couch. Present in every external way, and underneath all of it, completely, permanently gone. There were 2 moments I nearly cracked. The first was a Friday night when she reached over in the dark and rested her hand on my arm the way she used to years ago, just resting it there, nothing more. And for one unguarded second, I forgot everything. Then I remembered Savannah and the drafts folder and the earrings in the gym bag. I said I was restless, rolled to my side. She didn't say anything. The second was dinner about a week before the gala. She mentioned Ryan's name, just in passing, just about a logistics problem with a venue. Her voice was flat, professional, completely controlled. Not a flicker. Nothing. The performance was so clean, it told me something important. She'd been running this for a long time. This wasn't a mistake she was managing. This was a life she had built. The Wednesday before the gala, I called Patricia Calloway. I'd found her through basic research. Professional profile, neighborhood, enough to form a picture. I kept the call short. I told her who I was. I told her what I knew. I gave her the hotel name, the dates, and offered to forward the documentation. I didn't ask her what she planned to do with the information. I just gave her the facts. She was quiet for a long time after I finished. "How long?" she asked finally. "At least 8 months that I can verify," I said. Another silence. "Thank you," she said. Steady. Much steadier than I expected. "I'm sorry," I said. And I meant it. We ended the call, and I went back to preparing for Thursday evening. The Meridian Annual Spring Gala was held at the Fernwood Event Center, a venue I knew well because I had led the original renovation of that space 7 years earlier. Claire had actually pointed that out once, early in our marriage, proud of the coincidence. She described the atrium ceiling in particular, talked about how the light worked in that room. I'd nodded and told her how glad I was she liked it. I arrived 20 minutes after the event started. No invitation necessary. A well-dressed man at a corporate gala is invisible. I had a process server positioned outside, waiting for a one-word text. Claire was near the central bar with 2 colleagues when I found her. She was mid-sentence, animated, completely in her element, the room reading, the effortless navigation. She didn't see me until I was 15 feet out. And when she did, I watched the sequence happen in under a second. Recognition, recalculation, and then a smile that appeared from nowhere. Marcus. She moved toward me, voice warm, eyes doing something else entirely. What are you doing here? You should have told me. Is Ryan here? I asked. The warmth didn't leave the smile, but something behind her eyes stopped moving. He's around somewhere, she said carefully. I looked past her and found him across the room. Tall, silver at the temples, moving through a cluster of clients with the practiced ease of someone who has never questioned whether a room wants him in it. He hadn't noticed me yet, but he would. I just wanted to make sure both of you were in the same place, I said. That's when she understood. I sent the text. The process server crossed the atrium in a straight line, handed the envelope to Claire and stepped back. She looked down at it. She knew. I could see it in the way she stopped breathing. You're serving me here, she said, not a question. Very quiet. I thought you'd want to be somewhere you're comfortable, I said. Across the room, Ryan's phone had apparently buzzed. Patricia had done her part. He was looking at his screen, and then he looked up and found Claire across the room. And the calculation that crossed his face in that moment was something I won't forget. This is insane, Claire said, stepping closer, voice dropping. You are making a scene at my professional event. I'm standing still, I said. I haven't raised my voice. Her jaw tightened. We can handle this like adults. In private. I looked at her steadily. My attorney will contact you Monday morning. The documentation is already filed. There's nothing left to discuss tonight, Claire. The word nothing landed. 11 years, she said, and her voice shifted, something underneath it fracturing just slightly. You're going to walk out of here after 11 years and not even... You ended 11 years, I said, in Savannah, in March. She had no response to that. Not a fast one, not a prepared one. Just silence. And the silence was the most honest thing she'd given me in months. I nodded once. Then I turned and walked out through the atrium, through the doors, past the glass panels I'd once specified, under the ceiling she had once admired. And I didn't look back once. The divorce took 9 months. It wasn't simple. 11 years never is. But it was clear. The documentation I'd gathered was thorough. We reached a settlement that was fair. Not generous. Fair. Claire left Meridian approximately 6 weeks after the gala. I don't know the specific circumstances and didn't ask. A mutual contact mentioned it once in passing. I let it pass. Ryan Calloway and Patricia separated in June. I know because Patricia sent one brief message. Just 2 words. Thank you. I replied the same way. I sold the Decatur house. Too many layers in every room. Too many meanings I didn't want to excavate. I moved into a smaller place in the city. Cleaner lines, quieter street, a kitchen window that gets good afternoon light. I repainted it on a Sunday with loud music on and every window open. It took 4 hours. I didn't think about a single thing except the color. My work is fine. Better than fine, if I'm being honest with myself. I'm not going to tell you I came out of this as a better man than I went in. That's not how these things work, and I don't believe people who say it is. But I came out clear. And clarity, I've learned, is worth almost everything. If there's one thing I'd leave you with, when something feels consistently wrong, not different, not complicated, but wrong, stop adding it to a pile and start paying attention. The truth is almost always already visible. We just sometimes aren't ready to look at it directly. What would you have done? Let me know in the comments.